Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Great to see everybody, even if it's on here online. Uh, as a reminder, we're studying informational text. We learned yesterday that informational text is written by authors to inform the reader of whatever topic they want to write about. Today, we are going to dive a little deeper into that. We're going to be able to recognize characteristics of informational text. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And before we get started, I want to give you another little life hack, how to find the main idea in a paragraph. I have found in order to avoid going on and on and on in a summary, I found that I just asked myself 3 letters, W, who or what, DW is doing what, who's doing what, or what's doing what. So when we go through our story today, we're going to ask that question to ourselves after each paragraph, and then we're going to jot it in the margins. So here's our story today. You can follow along or you can open this up later after this video. The first thing that readers do is look at the characteristics. I'm pointing all around to the text. Look at the characteristics and features of the text, and we'll make an inference about what genre we're going to read. Of course, you already know, but we're going to pretend you don't. So, what are we noticing? We notice here in the title, The Path to Paper Sun. And this is the second one that we'll read tomorrow. This is the one we'll read today, The Path to Paper Sun by Grant Dinn. Not everything is always going to say informational text, but we are noticing real photos. There is one graphic that helps us to know that this is informational text. We're also noticing that things are separated under headings. We see lots of real photographs throughout here. We also skim and scan and see the names of important laws. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. That does not sound like a fiction law, does it? It sounds like a real law that probably happened in history. What other features do you notice? Bold words. And dates usually are good clues to help us to know that this is informational text. So, also, another thing that readers do is to pre-read and see if we can find any vocabulary we better look into. Of course, in Savvis, it's already highlighted in blue, and you can click on this anytime to get the definition. We're going to do that right now. Citizens. People who belong to a particular place. And this, of course, is a noun. And just so you know, this is the pronunciation. Citizens. Immigration. And you probably have heard this word, immigration, the act of moving to a new country to live there. Another vocabulary word we're going to come upon today is processing. Processing when it comes to, as it pertains to immigration, a series of steps in a legal action. And there should be one more. There it is. Admitted. That has multiple definitions, so this is going to help us to know which one. Admitted. Granted access to a place, from the Latin word admittere, meaning to send in. The definition of this word is slightly different in English and in Spanish. So that will help us to know what we're reading when we skim and scan and we notice that there are words that are unfamiliar to us. We should look into that before we read. So after readers pre-read and notice the features like the real photos and bolded words, we're going to make sure that we are constantly checking for understanding as we read. So I'm going to get you started on the first couple of paragraphs, and then I'm going to send you on your way. The Path to Paper Sun by Grant Dinh. Most of the Chinese workers who came to the United States in the mid-1800s were men. Half of them were married with wives and sometimes children who had been left behind in China. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 prohibited Chinese laborers, that means forbid, Chinese laborers from sending for their families to join them in the United States, but merchants and US citizens were allowed to do so. So each time a member of those groups returned to China for a visit, they often reported the birth of a son or two to the immigration authorities when they came back. The claim created immigration slots which could be used to bring other Chinese to America. So we know that we're going to answer WDW. WDW, who's doing what? We're going to slide down here a little bit more to be able to say who or what is our topic. Of course, it is what created the problem. And we know Chinese people, but what created the problem? So I'm going to go with what instead of who, and I'm going to say the Chinese Exclusion Act made it difficult for Chinese immigrants to come to the US. They had to do some tricky things to be able to do that. So then after I write that main idea, I'm going to scroll down here. There it is. And I'm going to click save. Please do that so I can see what you wrote in the margin. Don't forget to save. I'm going to move on to paragraph 2. You can exit out. Paragraph 2. In 1906, a major earthquake and fire destroyed much of San Francisco. And we'll look at that picture in a moment, that graphic, including the city's Hall of Records. With the city's birth records destroyed, some Chinese saw an opportunity. They claimed that they had been born in San Francisco. Smart. And that they had a wife and so many sons in China. So we're going to ask ourselves again, who's doing what? Who used this opportunity? Chinese immigrants, right? Hopefully you said that. Chinese immigrants, and what did they do? This is our W, Chinese immigrants. Now we're going to need a DW. Chinese immigrants used, destroyed birth records and what happened? They used destroyed. Actually, I'd like to go back a little bit. Used there we go. As an opportunity to do what? To claim that they had more. You want to say sons? How about family members? Chinese immigrants used destroyed birth records to claim they had more family members. That really was smart. Then we'll notice a graphic. And the reader can tell that this graphic is probably the destroyed city of San Francisco after the earthquake and the fire. So let's move to paragraph 3. Sometimes the sun was truly related. Sometimes the sun, notice the quotes, that helps the reader to know it's not a real sun, it's a fake sun. Might be a nephew or another relative. Often the identity was sold to an unrelated person who lived near the father's, wink wink, Chinese village. When a paper sun, meaning not really a sun, but written on the paper, bought an identity, he also purchased a coaching book or notes, like a cheat sheet, that provided both of the questions and answers that might be asked during the immigration processing. The paper son's job was to memorize the answers. So what was their opportunity? What opportunity did they find with all these records? We're going to ask ourselves, WDW, who? Chinese people, right? Chinese is doing what? Or Chinese are doing what? What did they do? Created. We can say fake. Identities, and the shortened word, letters that we use sometimes for identity is ID. Created fake IDs. And sometimes they sold them, right? And do we need a whole lot of details for that? We really don't. This is the main idea of it. They created fake IDs. We know that they sold them. We know that sometimes they use them to bring others, family members in. But this is really the main point, that they created fake IDs. So go ahead and click save again there. And then I'm going to ask you to read paragraph 4. And I'm going to ask you to write the main idea. You can just highlight the last word, and that'll bring up this little thing right here. There you go. So if you highlight the last word in the paragraph, you can type an annotation. Annotating is when you just write in the margin. These are great little notes, and I look forward to being able to see your thoughts. Make sure to watch the other video that I sent today for your grammar lesson. Good luck. Bye-bye.